Hello everyone and welcome to the third episode of the S-Man Speaks Show. I'm your host, S-Man Speaks, and today's installment will include some talk of the Electoral College ratifying Joe Biden's victory, MAGA-tards not accepting the outcome, responding to some comments, and more. So as you all know, the Electoral College has voted to ratify Joseph R. Biden Jr. as the next President of the United States. He has received 306 electoral votes to Donald J. Trump's 232. This has given some Republicans the balls to acknowledge reality that Trump lost a free and fair election, but that has not convinced conservative gatekeeper and hottest guy on 9/11truthersonly.com, the Truegrave. Truegrave has been spewing the president's diarrhea of unproven voter fraud allegations and has used the term stop the steal. Or as this tweet of his says, keep the momentum up, people. They will not steal the election from us. Hashtag stop the steal. All right, mate, we're gonna stop the steal. Rudy Giuliani was fighting that dingo that's eating our ballots. That's why his bottom teeth are so messed up, because the dingo hit him in the face and then ate his baby. People like this actually believe that members of both parties that overwhelmingly have negative feelings about each other, put those feelings aside long enough to remove the president from office using faulty machines, votes from dead people, and whatever other nonsense that Trump attorney and Chester the molester's half-dead reincarnation, Rudy Giuliani, has to say.
Down here, salt is a way of life.
Obviously, the environment down here is all salt. The ceiling's salt, the floor is salt, the walls are salt, and to an extent, the air is salt. And you breathe that in, and you can constantly taste the salt.
Truegrave, a noted critic of yours truly, has left an abomination of stupidity in the comment section of my recent episodes of the show, proving that once again MAGA-tards cannot handle losing. Because as I said 4 years ago, you're gonna be winning so much with me, you're gonna get tired of winning, and then we're gonna start losing, and then you're gonna get really tired of losing, and then I won't be able to stop losing, said the President of the United States. He starts off with one particularly stupid comment saying, "Lol, you would have to actually think about the election. You clearly do not think." I replied, "Lol, who hurt you?" And I replied with a link to my favorite song, which describes MAGA-tards. The song is called Hoes Mad. If you don't know, it's a very philosophical song explaining the emotional
Hoes mad, 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 hoes mad.
Then this next comment he makes is just really stupid. So he says in the first comment, "Please prove that there was no voter fraud because what I'm seeing is overwhelming amounts of voter fraud. That doesn't be your overt leftist talking points," which is some horrible grammar right there. And then I shared a link talking about how voter fraud is exceedingly rare. And then he replies, "First, read a political article. Now you're linking a website that is citing the Hill. My question to you is, do you get all your information from leftist news sources?" First off, let's see. It is not incumbent upon me to rebut the president's arguments that he provided no evidence for. If you make a claim without evidence, it can be dismissed without evidence. The fact the president has been unable to actually provide real evidence of massive voter fraud gives me justification to dismiss his claims. And then it's incumbent upon you to prove your claim that there was voter fraud, Truegrave. All I said is the president made allegations of voter fraud without evidence. That's not me saying that there's no voter fraud or that voter fraud has never happened. The article I linked has said that, yeah, voter fraud happens, but they pointed out, and they cited the Heritage Foundation, which is a right-wing think tank, pointing out that, hey, voter fraud happens, but boy, is it not as common as the MAGA-tards claim. Now, the funny thing is, he either did not read this, or he read just enough to see that it did cite the Hill, but he ignored the part where it cited the Heritage Foundation, so that he could, in an intellectually dishonest or just lazy way, say, "Oh, you got your sources from left-wing places, therefore I don't have to actually read what you cited," which is pretty stupid. And this guy calls everything he doesn't like left wing. You know, if he wakes up on the wrong side of the bed, he'll blame the left for him waking up on the wrong side of the bed in the morning. I mean, holy Christ. This guy calls people he doesn't like left wing because his buddy Don the Pleb and guy who would probably kidnap the governor of Michigan. He's called me a leftist for over a year, Don the Pleb, just because I oppose the Electoral College and I'm for the Constitution explicitly saying that there is a separation of church and state. He calls me a leftist based off of his political illiteracy, and his buddy and main baglapper, Truegrave, says the same thing. I mean, Truegrave is a total Don the Pleb simp, and it makes no sense. So this is what I cited as my evidence, and of course, Truegrave dismissed it because reading is hard. So, over the course of 20 years, about 250 million votes have been cast using a mail ballot, because vote by mail versus in-person voting, there's a huge difference in terms of the number of people who do it. The Heritage Foundation, which is a right-wing think tank, one of the most influential in the United States, maintains an online database of election fraud cases in the United States, and there have been 1,200 cases of vote fraud in all forms, 90% or 1,100 of which have resulted in criminal convictions. Of those, 204 involved the use of absentee ballots, 143 resulted in criminal convictions, so 70% of 204 resulted in criminal convictions. 90% of the 1,200 of all forms of vote fraud resulted in criminal convictions. It is so extremely rare. 0.0006% of the total votes cast, because 143 cases of fraud using mail-in ballots over the course of 20 years comes down to 7 to 8 cases per year nationally. It also means that across the 50 states, there has been an average of 3 cases per state over the 20-year span. That is just 1 case per state every 6 or 7 years. Oregon, which has been mailing ballots to all of their voters since 2000, have worked diligently to put in stringent security measures. All 50 states have stringent security measures, and the election officials of all 50 states have reported that no major fraud has taken place. The MAGA-tards have not been able to disprove that whatsoever, and I find that to be quite telling. They know that Joe Biden is a duly elected president. And I think that deep down Truegrave knows that too. So here is a total swing and a miss from Truegrave, where he tries to accuse me of being a hypocrite when he says, "So you're going to use Politico as a source, okay? Right-wing news sites are wrong, but overt left-wing sites, they're okay." And I said, name me a right-wing site that isn't biased in favor of the president. Also, Politico isn't a flawed source, because so far all he's able to do is say, well, it's a left-wing site, but he can't actually refute what they said. There's no reasoning with this guy. Unless Politico is to tickle the president's taint, he doesn't care what they have to say. Then Truegrave says, I'm not the one claiming right-wing sources are not biased. I'm mocking you for your double standard of using political overt leftist rag. And yes, Politico is garbage. What double standard do I have? I have been pretty careful with what sources I use. I don't use CNN. I don't use BuzzFeed, of all places. The only time I use BuzzFeed is to mock them for saying something stupid. And it has been a while since I've actually gone after BuzzFeed. Might one day in the future, who knows. But if there's any right-wing sources that have any objectivity, I'll cite them. I mean, I used to cite Breitbart all the time 4 years ago, and then I realized what total dickheads they are, so I stopped citing them. But look, this guy claims everything that is slightly not as right-wing as he is left-wing because he's politically illiterate. That's all there is with him. In this comment, he says, 2 minutes in, I'm shocked and disgusted by your blatant leftism. No voter fraud. Lol, let's see your evidence for that. And then I replied, laughing my fucking ass off, quote unquote, leftism is when someone says something that I don't like, even though the person I don't like doesn't support leftist economics. Also, I said that there has been no proof from the Trump campaign to prove that there was quote unquote massive voter fraud. They even admitted in court that they weren't claiming fraud, but wanted some ballots purged and got BTFO'd by the judge for it. Then he says, you claim that, but I have yet to see in the evidence of your right-wing economic ideas, and I've seen evidence on to counter that. Please explain Dominion voting systems, Republican poll workers being forced out of the room, votes are being counted. You're not going to address it because Politico didn't address it. This is a tweet I posted on the 23rd of February, and I retweet it sometimes just so when morons like Truegrave accuse me of being a leftist, they can see that they're full of shit. Anyway, so these are the economic views I've talked about. I'm in favor of a flat income tax of 15%, although I would like to gradually reduce it to where we get rid of the income tax altogether. Under no circumstances do I support bailouts or subsidies. I'm a very powerful proponent of free trade. I oppose protectionism, but if getting rid of the income tax means we do have to use tariffs, then fine, although I would have the tariffs as low as possible. I support a balanced budget amendment to the Constitution, which can only be overridden by a 4/5 vote in both houses of Congress. I oppose the existence of the estate tax. I oppose wealth taxes. I would like to reduce or eliminate sales taxes, or at the very least we can have a sales tax holiday, hopefully as often as possible. I don't support any wage or price controls, specifically the minimum wage, like no maximum or minimum wage. I guess this is kind of redundant, this part, but whatever. I support returning to the gold standard, and I oppose price controls, which, okay, I accidentally typed that twice at the time. It was kind of late at the time. I support getting rid of the welfare state, specifically phasing out Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security, because those programs are irreparably fucked. I oppose things like universal basic income, Medicare for all. I want the national debt eliminated, and the Affordable Care Act needs to go. And then this is just social issues, immigration, foreign policy, and blah, blah, blah. It's pinned, so if you want to read it in full, you can go ahead. But that's my evidence. I would like to see yours. About the whole poll watchers not being allowed to watch the votes being counted. So, the president, as we all know, attempted to delegitimize the election by falsely asserting that election officials in Pennsylvania and Michigan tried to ban Republican observers from polling stations, an accusation for which he has, of course, provided no evidence, because evidence is too hard for the president to understand, and his supporters, like Trugrave, are too stupid to understand what the burden of proof means when they make such bullshit accusations. So in Pennsylvania, Democrats have gone to state Supreme Court to try and ban our election observers, Trump declared Thursday evening, adding, they don't want anybody watching them count as they count the ballots, which, first off, there was actually a video stream in, I think, Philadelphia of the ballots being counted. So that's everybody being able to watch them count the ballots. But Trump's statement, this is untrue, as there is zero evidence of Democrats attempting to ban Republican representatives from observing the counting of the votes. The president is seemingly referring to a case adjudicated Thursday morning in which the Trump campaign was requesting closer observation of the ballot canvassing process in Pennsylvania, but legitimate poll watchers were never systematically barred from any location. Lawyers for Trump's campaign also filed a federal motion on Thursday evening to stop the vote count in Philadelphia, alleging that all Republican observers were illegally blocked from watching the process. However, U.S. District Judge Paul Diamond, a Republican President George W. Bush appointee, denied the request after Trump lawyers admitted that observers had been admitted to the facility. Trump's lawyers admitted that. During his press conference Thursday, Trump also acclaimed that his campaign had been denied access to observe any counting in Detroit. Referring the TCF Center down in Detroit, Trump alleged one major hub and had covered up the windows with large pieces of cardboard so they could protect and block the counting area. They didn't want anybody seeing the counting. While cardboard was placed over portions of the glass because workers claimed they felt intimidated by protesters gathering outside, at least 134 Republican poll watchers were already inside the vote counting area. There were 134 counting boards set up, and each party was allowed one poll watcher per board. On Wednesday, according to the Detroit Free Press, both Democratic and Republican poll watchers were prohibited from entering the center because the number of challengers already observing the process had reached a mandated capacity related to the coronavirus pandemic. By Wednesday afternoon, more than 225 Republican poll watchers were roaming the room and observing the process, almost double the number of challengers who were supposed to be there. We remain confident that the election will be open, honest, and produce accurate results, said Kevin Freely, a spokesperson for the Philadelphia City Commissioners. On a big number, so a right-wing think tank, as I said earlier, 0.0000007% that number I mentioned earlier. That is unbelievable. But yes, here is the proof that your claim that the poll watchers weren't allowed to watch is a lie. You are a liar. Then the True Grave says, "Oh, please don't have kids. The world cannot survive the horror." Oh yes, because clearly you're the best judge of what horror is when you think that everything you don't like is leftism and socialism. I'm pretty certain the horror will be your kids growing up to be too stupid to understand what words mean. And then he left another comment that seems unusually angry and bitter at me for whatever imagined grievance he thinks there is. "Welcome to the episode 2 of Total Retardation, where I, leftist, pretends to be a right-winger and only cites left-wing talking points because he can't think for himself." First off, once again, tremendous grammar. Just tremendous grammar. I, leftist? What? Yes, this guy probably was writing this while snorting cocaine off of Don the Pleb's ass crack, but come on. First off, the sites I have cited on the show are not left-wing. There's no political bias in the sites that I have cited. It's just you being politically illiterate and thinking that everything you don't like is leftism. So here's the last thing he had asked me to answer, and here it is. Fact check. Dominion is not linked to Antifa or Venezuela, did not switch U.S. 2020 election votes in Virginia, and was not subject to a U.S. Army raid in Germany. So, it is unbelievable just to see the spastic screeching of the magatards who... They have a card they use as a signal that they understand they've lost, but they want to blame it on something else. But anyway, social media users have been sharing a video which makes several untrue claims to undermine electronic voting software companies Dominion Voting Systems and Smartmatic in order to allege voter fraud in the November 2020 U.S. presidential election. The video alleges Dominion is linked to Smartmatic, that the founders of Dominion and Smartmatic are linked to the left-leaning, decentralized anti-fascist group, political movement Antifa, and to Venezuela. That Dominion offices in Germany were raided, and that Dominion switched votes in Virginia. However, Reuters has examined these key claims and found that they are not supported by facts. So they have linked 2 videos. From the Tom Lapley podcast is captioned, "Dominion software is a far-left, Antifa-supporting company that was used in 30 states. We, the people, are supposed to believe this was a free and fair election?" I love how magatards love using the term "we the people," like they actually care about other people. Because generally magatards are the most selfish people on the planet. Anyway, in the video, the presenter says, Dominion voting machines that were used in 30 states use Smartmatic software. Dominion is a front company for Smartmatic software. Smartmatic Dominion sent all voting results to Frankfurt and Barcelona, and we'll get into the raid that happened in Frankfurt later, which actually did happen. Smartmatic is founded by 2 Venezuelans close to Hugo Chavez. Dominion is a far-left company with a leader who supports Antifa. He then shows 2 spreadsheets and reads out segments from Gateway Pundit article which he claims proves election fraud occurred in Virginia. The Election Infrastructure Government Coordinating Council Executive Committee, and oh my god, that's too long of a name, and the Election Infrastructure Sector Coordinating Council said in a statement that election security officials have no evidence that ballots were changed, deleted, or lost by voting systems in the November 3rd U.S. election, which they described as the most secure in American history. Republican President Donald Trump has repeatedly made unsubstantiated claims of electoral fraud because the president generally is a fucking liar. And his stupid supporters believe everything he says because how fucking dare you question our tremendous leader. The video claims Dominion uses Smartmatic software and that Dominion is a front company for Smartmatic. Samira, however the fuck your name is, Saba, communications director for Smartmatic, told Reuters via email for a previous fact check, linked there, Smartmatic has never been owned or has never owned any shares or had any financial stake in Dominion voting systems. Smartmatic has never provided Dominion voting systems with any software, hardware, or other technology. On the Dominion voting website, It states that Dominion has never been and is not currently owned by Smartmatic. Dominion is an entirely separate company and a fierce competitor to Smartmatic. Dominion and Smartmatic do not collaborate in any way and have no affiliate relationships or financial ties. Dominion does not use Smartmatic software. This video claims that the founder of Dominion supports Antifa, and Smartmatic was founded by two Venezuelans close to the Latin nation's former president, the late Hugo Chavez. Of course, MAGA turds, by the way, provide no evidence to back up any of their claims because evidence is hard, reading for them is hard, and how fucking dare you question what their tremendous leader says. The CEO of Dominion is John... I'm not even going to bother pronouncing his last name because, fuck, I know I'm going to butcher it. So Johnny Boy says that Dominion states on his website that it is a nonpartisan company. Dominion works with all U.S. political parties, our customer base, and our government outreach practices reflect this nonpartisan approach. Reuters was also not able to find any evidence to suggest that this guy works or supports Antifa. Two of Smartmatic's founders, Antonio What's-His-Face and Roger Pinata, I know that's not how it's pronounced, but come on. He probably got that a lot as a kid. Who continues to run the company as CEO and president, respectively, are from Venezuela, but the company was founded in Florida, which, for the MAGA tarts, is located in the United States. Incorporated in the United States, and now it has its headquarters in London, the United Kingdom. Smartmatic confirms on its website that the company is not Venezuelan, adding, Smartmatic has no ties to the governments or political parties of any country. The socialist leader, Hugo Chavez, was president of Venezuela from 1999 till 2013, when he died of cancer in 2013. The Dominion raid claim. Of course, the Post alleges that there was a raid of Dominion offices in Frankfurt where Dominion sent all of the election results. Dominion also confirms on its website there have been no raids of Dominion servers by the U.S. military or otherwise, and Dominion does not have servers in Germany. Also, guess who oversees the United States military? The Commander-in-Chief and his Defense Secretary. So, what role would Donald Trump have in this? In this being ordered? This comment in the video may refer to a claim previously fact-checked by Reuters here, in which social media users claimed the representative of Texas's 1st Congressional District, Louis Gohmert, said the United States Army had seized Dominion servers in Germany, which Louis Gohmert is a fucking liar, by the way. Gohmert's comments were made on Newsmax, and also allegedly on a video call shared widely on social media. However, Gohmert was speaking about the electronic voting company Sichtel, not Dominion. So, of course, these fucking morons don't actually fact-check that. Statements on the website Sichtel and Dominion confirm that there is no relationship between the companies. Gohmert said, I don't know the truth. I know there was a German tweet in German, that's redundant, saying that on Monday, United States Army forces were sent into Sichtel and grabbed their server. He claimed without corroborating evidence, of course, that Sichtel had information that could show how many votes had allegedly been switched from Republican to Democrat. Sichtel published a statement online refuting the claim. Quote, the technologies implemented by Sichtel in the United States are both hosted and managed within the United States by a local subsidiary, SOE Software, based in Tampa, Florida. We do not tabulate, tally, or count the votes in the United States. We do not have servers or offices in Frankfurt. The United States Army has not seized anything from Sichtel in Barcelona, Frankfurt, or anywhere else. Votes in Virginia. In the video, the presenter reads out passages and shows two spreadsheets from an article by Gateway Pundit seen here. The article purports to show evidence of voter fraud in Virginia, which the video presenter claims is proof of Dominion changing votes as quote-unquote evidence. This article cites spreadsheets of data purportedly from the New York Times, pointing out that the spreadsheets show 3 vote dumps totaling over 900,000 votes for Mr. Biden and almost 200,000 votes for Mr. Trump, 2 of which were subsequently retracted, suggesting, in the end, Biden received an extra 308,051.63 votes and Mr. Trump received 77,492.67. The article says these reversing entries look like adjusting entries. There's no logical reason except for fraud. Of course, a spokesperson for the New York Times told Reuters that their company did not make the spreadsheets in the Gateway Pundit article. However, the New York Times did share with Reuters the election data from Fairfax County, Virginia, which shows 3 entries for Mr. Biden and Mr. Trump together totaling over 900,000 and almost 200,000 votes, respectively, where 2 of the entries were later deleted. This is a very similar situation to the one detailed in the Gateway Pundit article, although the number of votes in each of the 6 alleged vote dumps for Mr. Biden and Mr. Trump in the Gateway Pundit article differ from the NYT data by a margin of a few hundred to approximately 2,000 votes. The table that the NYT shared with Reuters can be seen here. The first displayed large vote dump entry at 11:42 Eastern Time on November 3rd shows an addition of 300,442 votes for Mr. Biden and 38,150 for Mr. Trump in the New York Times data, close to the 331,000.50 votes for Mr. Biden and the 39,368 votes for Mr. Trump recorded in the Gateway Pundit chart. In the NYT data, 332,442 votes and 38,150 votes were subtracted from Mr. Biden and Mr. Trump's vote totals, respectively, at 12 minutes past midnight on November 4th. In the Gateway Pundit data, 330,153.34 votes were subtracted from Mr. Biden and 37,550.59 were subtracted from Mr. Trump at about 5 in the morning. So the same time stamp as the subtraction from the NYT data. A second large entry at 26 minutes past midnight on November 4th shows 308,407 votes added to Mr. Biden's total and 79,372 for Mr. Trump, all of which were then subtracted at 30 minutes past midnight in the NYT data. The Gateway Pundit data, Biden received 308,341.59 votes, and Mr. Trump received 80,357.05 votes at 5 hours, 26 minutes past midnight, all of which were subtracted 4 minutes later. The third large entry at 2:17 in the morning saw Mr. Biden receive 308,407 votes. Mr. Trump received 79,372 votes in the New York Times data, while the Gateway Pundit data Mr. Biden received 308,051.63 votes, and Mr. Trump received 77,492.67 votes. There was no subtraction of votes following this addition. The NYT data comes from the National Election Pool and Edison Research, which is linked in those 2 spots here and here. The New York Times spokesperson explained why the subtraction and multiple entries occurred. The jump and reversals reflect Addison confirming the data. There is no evidence in our data that votes have been fraudulently switched between candidates. Sometimes over the course of reporting results, officials or results providers make mistakes, such as mixing up 2 numbers, and they correct those mistakes as they verify the data. In the New York Times data, the amount taken away from the total candidates matches the amount originally added on. For example, 330,442 votes were added for Mr. Biden at 11:42. 330,442 votes were subtracted 12 minutes past midnight, November 4th. This means that the subtractions made no difference to the overall vote total until the figure was verified. So the verdict is false. Smartmatic does not own or supply software to Dominion. Dominion is not linked to Antifa. 2 of the Smartmatic founders are from Venezuela, but the company was incorporated in the United States and says it has no ties to governments or political parties of any country. Dominion did not switch votes in Virginia and was not subject to a U.S. Army raid in Germany. There's been no evidence provided by Truegrave, no evidence provided by Donald Trump. There's been no evidence provided by the MAGA-tards other than partisan places that have explicitly said they are pro one candidate, that have said, we want this person to win. They have provided no evidence to prove that Mr. Trump was actually reelected and that voter fraud occurred. I have been able to provide evidence from a right-wing think tank, so automatically I didn't cite a leftist source here, that pointed out that, hey, voter fraud does not happen as much as you like to claim it does. So I'm sorry that reality hurts your feelings here, but you are not entitled to your own facts. You have the right to be wrong, but you don't get to have your own facts. While I was recording and editing this video, I got an extraordinarily interesting notification from someone who tagged me in a tweet featuring a video from confused Twitter user and guy regretting his life choices before he even makes them, Novatron. Novatron apparently challenged yours truly to play some stupid and useless and irrelevant game that I've never heard of because a lot of people, quote-unquote people, said that he should challenge me to do so.
I've been requested a whole lot to face you in a contract fight.
Yeah, I don't know if imaginary friends count, okay?
So, why not sign it?
Because I don't fucking want to, and I don't know who you are, and I'm not going to waste my time with people I'm not familiar with. Maybe that's why?
Or, not sign it, technically, but sign up, accept it. I mean, come on now.
The answer's still no, you're not worth my time.
After all, it's just a video game. It's not like you're going to get beaten up in real life unless you want to do that, too, because we could rearrange that, too.
In your fucking dreams. I have much better things to do than play a game with you, or be anywhere near you, you entitled little fuck.
All I'm trying to say is for everybody that you have been wronging, including Cat Chat, and everyone requested me to do something about it, I said, what the hell, why not? I'm ready for anything. So, S-Man, sign my...
First off, I'm pretty confident no one actually asked you to do this, unless you count your imaginary friends as people. And who are the people I have supposedly been wronging? Because if I have wronged anyone, they have gotten an apology unless they didn't deserve it. And as for your reference to Cat Chat, maybe I shouldn't have made the video with mentioning her in it, but in my defense, she commented on a video of mine publicly, saying that George Floyd's murder was because of drugs in his system which killed him, which is not true. She publicly commented that, and I corrected it. I made it clear that I don't think she's a bad person, and maybe I should have spoken to her about this in private, sure, but, well, how do I say this? She can grow the fuck up. It's not that big of a deal. She can get a goddamn spine. And no, I am not signing up for whatever bullshit you're pushing. Final comments from the comment section, of course. I made a video a while ago, a live stream, talking about what would be the political consequences to defunding or abolishing the police, talking about why police as we know it should be abolished or defunded. It was a pretty nerdy video, I'll admit, but one that felt pretty damn great to make, and so far anyone who has criticized this video has not actually been able to refute anything that was said. All they did was get mad that, oh, S-Man was a little mean, or, oh my god, S-Man said something I didn't like. It's S-Man derangement syndrome with these people. Anyway, Truegrave, in his infinite stupidity, said, I've always considered you a left-wing libertarian. I will remain consistent. And I replied, everyone is a leftist but me, in quotes. If the boot fits, wear it. Well, he says he will remain consistent, and I say, yeah, consistently wrong, because he has no actual argument as to why I am somehow a leftist, when I have consistently supported what I had said in that tweet of my economic views. Like, oh yeah, how dare I say the Electoral College is useless? How dare I say that a secular country is not a scary thing? I'm not exactly certain what he bases my supposed leftism on, other than his own political illiteracy, but it's just bizarre that these people think that they can define someone else's views better than that person could themselves. So, so far, mainly out of all the comments I've gotten in the recent months, so far I'm just going to say, look, I oppose mask mandates, that I would absolutely fight any administration trying to make me wear something. I really do not give a shit what they have to say. ALM didn't give a fuck about Daniel Shaver until they could use him as an excuse to look the other way when the same thing happens to black people, which is true. BLM, the Marxist organization protection racket, doesn't care about improving the quality, health, well-being, education, prosperity for the black community, which is just a generalization. Again, Black Lives Matter is not a perfect group. They do have their flaws, but they run laps around the All Lives Matter crowd in terms of actually believing in something, actually standing for something. I honestly think you're politically illiterate. You're really not doing a good job for portraying yourself as someone who understands how to spell, how to proofread anything you say. By the way, the political compass test is a garbage way to indicate your actual political beliefs. And I have pointed out repeatedly that, I've said what my beliefs are on economics, on social issues, foreign policy. I've made it clear multiple times where I stand. If I change my mind, I will announce it, and I'll explain why as clearly as I can. And if that automatically somehow makes someone a leftist, then it's just you being stupid. I think you're on the left due to the things that actually come out of your mouth. And then I replied, when I'm such a leftist that I oppose their economic goals, I oppose their plans on many social, environmental grounds, you name it. But somehow I'm a leftist because you said so. And then, hello, fellow lib-right. Here's an important question. Are you yellow or purple? You can see in the thumbnail that there's the purple. I don't know what he's exactly referring to. And then to respond to the lawyer bot, to sum up what I'm going to say, I agree to disagree. It is not flip-flopping to have changed your views over time. We're not static. As for your views, some of them I find extreme, such as ACAB, where all cops are bastards. I can point to examples where officers outright, I guess that, I think he just kind of butchered it, what he was trying to say. The video came out of this man, Buffalo police officers resign. I gotta read this first. A video came out of this man who is a known instigator, I'd argue is a sociopath. Videos came out of him being repeatedly warned to move out of the way. Other times he's been to rallies to cause trouble. An entire 57-person Buffalo Police Department team resigned en masse to support fellow officers suspended for pushing a 75-year-old protester to the ground. The guy holding a scanner, honestly, was that really so much of a threat? If you can tell it's a goddamn scanner, you don't need to push him to the ground. Like, that cop overreacted. And again, people who are not cops don't get to push people to the ground for having a scanner in their hands. So a cop shouldn't be able to do the same thing. To use blanket terms against All Lives Matter or Blue Lives Matter, while simultaneously saying Black Lives Matter you have disagreements with, it's an unfair view. I can point to a well-thought-out document compiling tons of incidents where Black Lives Matter protests turned to riots, incidents where the looters were actively pushed out and shoved into police hands. Quote, "Take him, we don't want him, just please take him off our hands," unquote. It'd be equally unfair for me to go, look at all the All Lives Matter crowd didn't do any riots, because by proportion, they don't matter. Okay. My main gripe with Blue Lives Matter is, first off, blue lives don't exist. Yeah, there have been cops who have been killed for being cops, and I don't endorse the idea of killing cops for just being cops. If you kill a cop in self-defense, that's another story. As for Blue Lives Matter, it's mainly, my biggest gripe is that they think that they're oppressed. Police officers all the time enforce unjust legislation. They ruin the lives of countless people, throwing them in prison so they can enforce unjust legislation, and then they wonder why people don't like them. And when cops get away with brutalizing people all the time, how on earth can any of them have the right to wonder why people might not like them? Just food for thought. As for All Lives Matter, it was created in response to Black Lives Matter, and these people have shown time and again that they don't actually care about all lives. A lot of them are pro-war, pro-death penalty, and they have shown they repeatedly do not stand for life. But the way I see it, there is a clear and prevalent problem when there is zero punishment for burning down entire precincts and sociopaths are allowed to do as they please in violation of others' rights. I will say this. If you are a business owner, or if you are a homeowner, or what have you, and someone is either burning down your property or vandalizing your property, I would say you have every right to fire 2 in their chest, 1 in the head. I would absolutely say you had done nothing wrong if you had done so. You know, remember the Asian business owners in LA during the 1992 riots? They had rifles on top of their businesses. If people were vandalizing their property, they would take them out. Those people are heroes. Take the Kyle situation that just occurred. Tons of video footage showing that he was there as a medic on standby. How there is zero proof he went there to instigate fights. How he was being chased, attacked, beaten, and his rifle grabbed by those he ended up shooting. My question is, under what scenario can it not be construed as self-defense? 21 shots fired, 7 from Kyle. So he fired only 1/3 of the rounds fired. Okay. To me, if I were in Kyle Rittenhouse's situation, I would not have bothered going to another state where I don't live to defend property that's not mine, or to be a medic. Fuck that. Wisconsin is a different state to be in from your home state of Illinois. There's really no need to go over there. If he wants to go over there, fine. He goes over there at his own risk. I really honestly don't give a damn about the Kyle Rittenhouse situation, by the way. I really couldn't care less. But I really don't see the point of going to another state you don't live in to defend property that's not yours. In order to reduce police violence and brutality, there needs to be less interactions with officers. That is the most basic method of reducing overall harm and needless conflict. In order to support a movement who has been seen as actively hateful of others that aren't black, how can its image be redeemed to be more peaceful? First off, let's go over this again. There needs to be less interactions with officers. I agree. There needs to be less interactions. They need to be prevented from enforcing drug legislation or gun control. So yes, end the drug war and all gun control laws. I mean, every last one of them. That is the most basic method of reducing overall harm and needless conflict. Also, let's train cops to understand that people might be mean to you, but that does not give you the justification to lash out at them. There are times that customers are mean to to waiters in restaurants, but you don't see the waiter slitting their throat with a butter knife, for God's sake. In order to support a movement who's been seen as actively hateful. By who? Who is seeing them as actively hateful? Of others that aren't black. Okay, a small but vocal minority of this group. How can its image be redeemed to be more peaceful? By more people joining in that are not non-peaceful? Just saying. And by the way, yeah, she commented this on a video of mine 3 months ago. Cat Chat did. It was public. She said it's actually been confirmed that George Floyd has died from a drug overdose, which makes sense since he was overdosed at the time of his incident. She commented this publicly. I made an entire video right there saying that no, he did not die from a drug overdose. I very briefly mentioned Cat Chat. And to anyone who says that, oh, you went after her, no, I didn't. If she thinks that, she's wrong. you know, I've made it clear repeatedly that I don't think she's a bad person. I don't think she's a racist. I mean, I'm not even that familiar with her, if I'm being completely honest. So, as you all know, I have lost a few friends because I was mean to some Blue Lives Matter idiots, and because I was unwilling to allow people to say stupid shit and get away with it. There have been a lot of stupid people who say things that are just factually wrong, and when you show them the evidence, but they continue to say the same dumb shit you have refuted, at that point, just treating them like garbage is justified. If I've said anything that sounds even remotely apologetic towards those people, I want to take the opportunity to say I retract anything that sounds like an apology to those people. They're too stupid to be reasoned with, and these people would probably, they'll deny it, but let's be honest, they probably would justify cops just going out into the middle of the streets and executing people, peaceful protesters, or those who just happen to walk by. They would probably find some way to say that the cops were justified because reasons. That may be an extremely uncharitable projection, but let's be honest, these people will probably defend anything for whatever fucking reason. Okay, so I'm going to read this post made by APF Fact Check. And no, fact checkers didn't come out when the truth started coming out. That's just a total... I don't remember when I said this in the video. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but yeah, it was kind of controversial. Mad Hose downvoted it because Ho's mad. Total lie. As a bunch of idiots on on Facebook have shared posts like that because some of them are fucking stupid. Also, I thought I made sure in the video to make it clear that when I talked about fucking idiots on Facebook, I'm not... Those fucking idiots, none of them were Cat Chat. As far as I'm aware, she didn't share anything like that on Facebook. So this was published almost a month ago. It's entitled, George Floyd Did Not Die of a Drug Overdose. George Floyd Overdosed, suggesting that his... Actually, no, it would still deserve the attention. Okay, either way, you can watch the full thing, but no, I did not make any personal attacks against Cat Chat. I absolutely did not say, that, oh, she's a bad person. I never called her a racist. I made damn sure to be careful with how I worded things when it came to her. But if she does not understand it by now, then there's no point with trying to clarify it further. By the way, this guy was just fucking wrong. He was wrong by over 118 electoral votes as Donnie 2-inch. I mean, Donald Trump was unseated as president. He didn't get anywhere near half the Latino vote. I think he got like 1/3 of it, if I'm not mistaken. And then there was Truegrave's bullshit because he doesn't understand what the fuck he's going on about. Common Sense Guy, great stream. Disagree with very little with what you said. I find it funny as fuck the juxtaposition of 2016 Dems not accepting the results to now the Republicans doing exactly the same thing. Yeah, I fully agree. Fully agree. Another comment by a lawyer bot. What's interesting to me is how the media outlets such as CNN and so on shifted the narrative from "there's no fraud" to, quote, "there's no widespread voter fraud." Well, here's the thing. Like I showed from that Heritage Foundation post, is that, yeah, there's no widespread voter fraud. To say that there's absolutely no voter fraud would not be honest. Saying there's no widespread voter fraud is more accurate. I'm of the belief that fraud has occurred. Whether or not it has had any meaningful impact is up for debate. Actually, no, it's not. The facts are there to have said that it's extremely, extremely rare that the legislature has been lazy in how they refuse to audit the votes, or how Georgia promised to make it all public, every single ballot, but has yet to do so 2 years later. I am disappointed that half the voting country wanted the Supreme Court, who has exclusive rights to contests between states, left it on a "we don't want to bother with this case." We say it's without merit, but we refuse to explain why. 3 sentences for something this hotly contested. Okay. I do believe that all 50 states and the District of Columbia need to have consistent guidelines as to voting, so we don't have people trying to throw out the votes of states because apparently were not exactly 100% consistent with their own voting guidelines. But Texas does not have the right to tell their states how to administer their elections. And I would tell about, and you're kind of wrong. It's not half the voting country. It's a little less than half the voting country, but whatever. I would tell the less than half of the voting country to fuck off. This is them. They were not going to raise this if the president had won. They were never, ever going to say, well, President Trump has won, but we do not like the fact that certain states did not follow their rules, dotting their I's, crossing their T's. By all means, I accept that they refused to take it. Actually, let me address the last part. I would say the Supreme Court should absolutely try to never involve themselves in a presidential election. Bush versus Gore was a fucking joke. The Supreme Court, dominated by those who took the most narrow view of the 14th Amendment, used the most expansive or broad interpretation possible to justify that ruling, throwing out their principles in order to ensure that George W. Bush was the 43rd president of the United States. By all means, I accept that they refused to take it. It just leaves a very sour taste in my mouth, they'll claim standing when the merits and the facts haven't even been presented. Based on my earlier conversations, we have cause of action is an existing standard that is meant rather than standing, where the allegations are made, but it can be thrown out on the matter of why does it matter to you, rather than throwing it out without so much as looking at anything. And sure, the case still has to be taken under cause of action, but at least it can be presented and refuted more concretely. Which I get where you're coming from. But I would say that the court was right to throw it out on the matter of why does it matter to you? Because again, states have the absolute right to decide their own electoral procedures. Texas may not like it, but Texas can get bent. We don't see Pennsylvania suing Georgia over the fact that the voter suppression down there has been pretty bad. We didn't see Michigan suing Texas for its voter suppression, and we didn't see Wisconsin suing California for having fake ballot boxes. And besides, repeatedly, the Trump people, whether on his behalf or the president himself, have made a lot of allegations of irregularities, oftentimes with no evidence, and when they're in court under oath, they say, we're not saying this is fraud. So at this point, I think the judges would be just right to say, look, we're not going to bother with this. We have seen this play out repeatedly. We're not going to have deja vu happen again. We're done here. I am doing research into the history of standing and how it's applied historically. See Baker v. Carr, Bush v. Gore. Baker v. Carr does have audio of the transcripts. Baker v. Carr is the prime example of how voters brought forth a contest for their rights, but not how the courts in Pennsylvania and other lawsuits were trying to bring similar suits, factually speaking, but were unable to due to standing or lack of specific harm. Well, I would say that the voters and the legislators, if they feel like they have been so wronged, will have the opportunity to pass legislation to quote-unquote correct where those errors were made, and would make all these legal battles pretty much worthless in terms of actually trying to have them happen. It would be moot at that point. Also, I did hear conflicting opinions on how the 12th Amendment was applied, so I'm looking into how it's been applied and how consistently it's been applied and under what standards and sets of facts. Well, the 12th Amendment. Let's all just so we're all clear here. Let's take a look at the 12th Amendment. So this is the 12th Amendment to the Constitution. It talks about how the electors shall meet in their respective states to vote by ballot for president and vice president. Also, it would be unconstitutional for electors to vote for two candidates that reside in the same state for president and vice president. So President-elect Joe Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris could not have shared the same state and received that state's electoral college votes. So far, this just basically talks about the process of the electoral certificates being sent to Congress, the president of the Senate, aka vice president, in the presence of the Senate and the House of Representatives, opens all the certificates, and the votes shall be counted. The person that has the greatest number of votes, provided it's a majority, shall be president and vice president respectively. If no one gets a majority, then the House of Representatives immediately has to choose amongst the top three candidates for president of the United States, provided that more than two people receive any electoral college votes. Anyone who places fourth or worse cannot be chosen by the House of Representatives. The same thing applies for the United States Senate, except it's with the top two candidates for Vice President of the United States. So far, this is all it really means. And that's pretty much all the comments that were worth responding to. So yeah. So that's pretty much all I had to say in this video. Just so we're clear, January 6th is when the Congress of the United States will certify that it has been Joe Biden who won the presidential election. The president will not be able to steal the election. He has failed, and Joe Biden will be sworn in on January 20th. That's all I have to say for this one. I'll see you guys in another episode. And by the way, I have a few hot takes I want to make before this episode ends. Number 1, there is no such thing as a deep state. Number 2, the Southern Strategy did happen. 3, Donald Trump is one of our worst presidents in American history. Number 4, COVID absolutely is a severe problem. It's not just the flu, it's worse than that. Number 5, Trump supporters are generally immoral people. Number 6, I really do not give a shit how many people I have pissed off this year with consistently speaking out against police brutality and pushing for reforms to the police. If they got mad because I was a little harsh, they can eat shit for all I care. They have not been able to refute what I have said. All they were like is, this man's kind of mean, you know. It's kind of mean, because they're all a bunch of pussies. Anyway, I'll see you guys later.